fear is an illusion, because sometimes you think danger equals to fear, but that's not quite true. Everything actually is on the other side of fear.
Hello and welcome to HolisticCircle podcast, Spiritual Conversation. My name is Philipp Kobald. We are reaching out to people who are passionate about spreading light, love, and joy and gentle energy. And I'm happy to have here with us Diana, MaAr Divine. Hello, Diana.
Deanna, nice to meet you, Philipp. Thank you for having me on.
It's wonderful. You have such a nice, calm energy. So this is exactly what I need. It's a long working day for me. That's now almost 11 o'clock. And I'm so happy to get this calmness to end the day wonderfully. I'll be looking forward listening to you and to our dear audience. Welcome back. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I do. And of course, it is your time. And on my website, you can ask some questions that you want me to ask to the guests for you, new ideas, who I should be inviting. That is your little hour. So please enjoy it and have a good conversation about spirituality, healing, and all the interesting things that you're doing. And with that, Diana, I'd very much like you to a little bit introduce yourself. And I know you're a fellow podcaster, so that means I can lay back, sleep a little, and I'm sure you can speak an hour on the button and I can just have a... All right, please go ahead.
Thank you, Philip. Yeah, it's funny, like with the name, my pronunciation is more of like Eastern European. That's who I am. So it's Deanna, which is, the goddess of hunting. But of course, in more like English speak, it's Diana, which is, Princess Diana and the warrior princess as well. But it's the same frequency with a little different pronunciation, more gentle one, as you said. But about myself, thank you. Yes, I'm go by many labels. Some people know me as a galactic shaman, multidimensional channel. I'm also an author of a book, Mastering Quantum Creation, Awaken the Phoenix Within, Manifest Your Reality and Reclaim Your Cosmic Power. I'm also a quantum educator, a Kundalini activator, and much more. I teach quantum healing. I help people to reconnect to their quantum gifts and their channeling abilities. My passion is really to, reconnect people to who they truly are. And I believe everyone is really powerful. It's just we forgot really who we are because of all these, centuries of amnesia we went into. And now it's just so incredible. I've been on this journey for over 25 years, just journey of reclamation, remembrance of my own past lives, my own galactic lives. So I'm really out there. I do a lot of galactic Akashic records. I read kind of people's soul blueprint, their journey, but always bringing it back to today, because really today is what matters the most. So people apply it to their lives, to kind of where they are, how can they shine their light in the best way they can and release what's no longer serving them. So it's been wonderful, beautiful journey of remembrance for myself as well. And as I mentioned, I was born in Belarus. So I lived in Soviet Union at the time and then in Israel. And there's a lot going on there. I spent my childhood in Israel. So I've seen a lot of the war that we yet again experiencing on the news in Middle East. I was there during Gulf War. So I'm very familiar with, having a gas mask and going to school with it. And I came to US 30 years ago. So many different transitions, in this life. But that's what really helped me to gain different perspectives and see how precious this life is and how diverse everyone is. And I traveled to over, 50, 60 countries. And that always humbles me. And so I have a lot of compassion, and a lot of love for everyone and wherever they are on their journey.
Well, there's we only have 1 hour. That's a bit of an issue here. I'm sweating already, thinking like, how can I cover just like a scratch of what you do in an hour? But we'll try our very best to fumble it. That's what I'm famous for.
Whatever,
Everybody
guys.
is so amazing.
Ask me.
I'm trying to be the opposite. When you can't beat them on the amazing side, beat them on the crappy side. But let's get serious. You work, let's clear this up for the people who are now already interested into your work. You make one-on-ones as well. You give online consulting, or you're just focusing on spreading the book or the word. So maybe just 1 or 2 words for people who already want to know right away what we usually present in the end of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to my website, Deanna or DianaDivine.com, and kind of read the different offerings. I offer different master classes. So on a monthly basis, you can jump into my free masterclass. There's also certification, of course, where I help people to activate their quantum healing potential. And some people really come to me mostly to activate their channel and abilities, mostly the what's called light language, which is different than just regular channeling in English. It's actually in this multidimensional frequency language that I believe everyone has. There hasn't been one person that I haven't helped to activate. So I have a self-paced course you can take, or just to do a session with me to activate that if that is something that resonates. Many people hear me speak in these different languages and they're like, wow, Deanna, like something woke up in me. I feel this energy. And then my master classes, yeah, people come, like we do breath work, we do Kundalini activation, something shifts in them. I think for me, at the end of the day, it's like that little transformation that happens for a person where they're like, whoa, like I saw something, or I don't know, sometimes it's galactic, star family, or past life, whatever that is. Or I take people on a journey through their past lives. Also, whether I'm doing the reading, so I open their records of their soul, or I take them on past life regression. So it's just different. I feel the destination is the same. It's just different tools. So since I've been on the journey for so long, doing so many, healing modalities and quantum, I try to merge them all together, and whatever it feels right for the person, whether it's hypnotherapy if they're ready for, or they want me to do the work, or the energy clearing that they want. It's always about helping people to kind of see a little more beyond what they have available.
Right. So you're working with people one on one, but you do a lot of courses and programs. You said you have free stuff, paid stuff, master stuff. So
Mhm.
basically, that's along the line. So for everybody who's already
Yeah.
turning off the podcast and going straight to the website
Or
and
or
like,
just
I
go
want
in
to be in.
Amazon and grab my book, Mastering Quantum Creation. And a lot of stuff in this book kind of summarizes this. It's not just a book. Every chapter is an activation chapter. There is exercise at the end. There's also a website that goes along with it. And people found me throughout, the world. Actually, it's been quite interesting how my book has traveled to the right person. And so they're like always something happening. So you can just even start with a book and see what resonates for you.
All right, so we got this out of the way, so we can a little bit talk about all these different qualities. I think it's very regular, right? People who've been like more than 20, 30 years in the spiritual business, they've looked into so many different therapies, they themselves learned so many things. So in the end, they always develop their own plan, and they look at the person. And as you said, some people need hypnotherapy, some people need this. So you really get a feeling if you have a big toolbox,
Yeah.
you know what to take out in any individual person in front of you. I guess it's a quite regular story in a way. But let's go back to this mystery that I know a lot of people are into the idea of tuning into getting these messages, but they're confused about coming from within, coming from outside, coming from the past, future. So there's like a lot of confusion for people. And I guess a lot of people are also scared or nervous. So is it dangerous? Is it not dangerous? It's an ongoing question. I think you've heard it 100 times. And I've asked it at least 20 times, but it seems to be important to looking at the reaction of people, that it's just unknown for a lot of people. And as you said, everybody has the ability. And I guess you heard it 1,000 times that when we were small kids, people got all of these signs, saw these things, and then it was taken out of their life, ripped out of their body. And now people are scared to reconnect. So what is your basic message to the people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone kind of comes to me, what's my soul mission, right? And I talk about it in the sense of what I call the game of consciousness. So, what that means is for me, we are in this particular reality bubble where, yes, the soul is a software and this body is a hardware. And the software has had many imprints. So, it had many experiences in different bodies, sometimes in the form and sometimes not in the form. Sometimes as a female, sometimes as a male, sometimes in outside of Earth reality, in other galactic system, in a different humanoid body as well. So we are very multidimensional. And so we have, so people who come to me, yes, they just, I think the point you're trying to make is like people are confused, or the ego is so comfortable in a certain way of how they know things. So anything outside of it feels overwhelming. They're like, what is this for me? Or anything that outside of what I know. This is my, sandbox. This is the sandbox that I know. These are my tools when we were kids. But then you had to go outside of the box and explore something new. And you were like, oh my God, like anything new is scary. It's not safe anymore. This is how our reptilian primordial brain works. But the thing is, because of this game of consciousness that we in this what's called multidimensional amnesia. Every time we reborn into new lifetime, we don't remember what has happened before. And mind you, this is only here on Earth this experience is happening. Because in other systems, in my interactions, you usually remember your other lives. So here we're really starting from scratch. And as the children, we play, we have imagination, we have these imaginary friends. And so we're so pure and courageous in our playfulness. And then over time, from the society, from the culture, whether in Europe and US, we've been taught you're allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. This is not safe. So we develop in this conditioning, we develop in these belief systems that close us off to our gifts. We also know that when they did studies on children after age of 7, pretty much like their crown chakra closes up. They don't have as much kind of availability to that imagination. And also our school system. The school system that we have today is not nurturing imagination and creativity. It makes us memorize things and it puts us in these boxes. The children have to sit, right, and not move around. So they don't have that option to explore and be who they're truly meant to be. So I feel all of these external factors are really dampening our potential. And so what I'm seeing a lot as adults, especially right now, it's been really beautiful. Like as you said, like I've been on this journey for a long time. And then when COVID hit in 2020, I've been saying in the beginning of the year, like, this is going to be a powerful year. I didn't know how it's going to happen, but I knew there's going to be huge transformation. And then everyone was forced inside, right? Everyone was sitting at home. They didn't know how to be with themselves. Some of them were very uncomfortable. So they had to find a way to start meditating, start doing yoga, like breath work. And through that process, they started finding ways to connect to themselves or trying to find peace within themselves. And so that external noise started, getting more quiet. And that's really what we need. We need to find those moments within the day to cultivate practice. How do you find that connection? Connection is available, but if it's so noisy, you can't even hear it, right? Do you remember, like, Philip, in the 90s, we had those radios in the car and you had to like do the knobs and then shift to another radio station. And then between there was that static noise, right? It was like, and then you're like, oh, and then you hear the music. So that's what we have to do. We have to shift the channels so that we get to that clear channel and there's no more static. Otherwise, it's all staticky. We can't even hear. And so to cultivate that type of presence, we need certain things that we do. And, for each person, it's different. No one is alike. Everyone has their own unique signature. Not one session that I ever do is ever the same. And like you said, like I mix and match because of the person and where they are in their evolution and how much work they've done to listen to the cells or connect. And everyone needs something different. Some people experience trauma in their childhood or whatever experiences they had. Some of the trauma from this lifetime, some of the trauma from other lifetimes. So they have to clear that out first before they can even hear that clear channel. And so you have to meet them at where they are. But the person themselves can do the work too, right? They can find even that 5 minutes in the day. If you start the day not feeling great. Like you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm just not feeling great. And you're really grumpy. And you're going into your day kind of in that state of consciousness, you're not grumpy, everything around you is going to be grumpy, right? You just kind of creating a reality where everything is just not as aligned. It's just not exciting. And your whole day is like challenges and resistances. So it's all about resistance. But if you start the day grumpy, but then you're like, you know what? I'm going to change my day. You're like, Philip wakes up. He's like, Deanna, I don't want to feel that today. I want to be really have an amazing, magical day. So I'm going to wake up. I'm going to have my coffee. I'm going to, exercise. I'm going to do my breath work. I'm going to shift how I feel. So it's more magical. I'm going to put some gratitude into space. I'm going to imagine I'm going to have an amazing day and the right people coming my way. And my work is in a flow. There's no resistance. And guess what happens? You drive into your office and you're like, you know what? I'm not going to take the short path that I always take. I'm going to take a longer journey. I'm going to get the scenic route. I'm going to enjoy and have fun with whatever I'm seeing. And then you come to work, you're so much more in ease. Everything around you is in flow with you because that's how you feel. It reflects back your state of emotions and your state of consciousness. And I think that's really what people need to realize. We are conscious creators of our reality. Everything is from inside out, not the other way around. The external validation is nice, but it really mirrors where we are. And that's on us to do that inner work, that find that inner peace. And it'll be okay if it's not inner peace. Maybe today it has to be this way. And I'm okay with that too. And not to be critical and judging of ourselves. Everyone is so hard on themselves and they just, pounding themselves. The inner critic is like, and sometimes we just need a hug with ourselves, right? Doing the best we can at the best way we can today. And that's just great as well. So that's kind of my message usually is like, be your own friend. Universe is not here to get you. Universe is a friendly place as well. It is co-creating with you. And you have to, follow your passion, follow your joy.
Thank you so much. And I think it's an important message for everyone because people cannot hear it often enough. Because as you said,
Yeah.
everybody's running, everybody's buzzing, and everybody's spinning. And too many people don't give themselves the peace of stopping for a moment and
Yeah.
reconnect with themselves. But before we go on that road, which is very beautiful, I'd like to go back because I always keen to get your take on what you said. I think it was important. Is basically my question, maybe not so much for the audience, but I'm curious because you say you have the ability, other galaxies is more open, they remember, we are the ones who don't remember, and that stuff that you talked about. I was always also wondering, looking at our societies and the way our reality, if it's also self-preservation, because I can see that a lot of people who open up the channels, they get like a lot of emotions and information to handle. And I always wonder how much it is, as you said, 7 years, the crown chakra gets closed, how much this is self-preservation, living in a society, living in a city, versus living in the countryside, working with animals, working with the land. These people are much more open because, they need their instincts, they need to be aware of predators and things like that. So I always wonder if that's the price that we gave on the altar of civilization, or do you see that there could be a connection? I'm very much interested in your answer to that.
Yeah, that's a great, great question. I think all civilization rise and fall. I mean, if we look into ancient civilizations, specifically the ones that were here on Earth, and when I say Earth, there's like different versions of Earth too. So when you talk about Atlantis or later ancient Egypt, and a lot of the records, readings that I do, and my own memories is of those great, golden civilization where that's, I would say, the last time that we had the most connection, where we were able to lift stones with just our mind or conjures, I don't know, water storms. We had those incredible gifts and we were all sorcerers and magicians. And then kind of civilization in the last 12,000 years went into, as many call Kali Yuga or Dark Ages, where we separated more from the source. So we separated more from our gifts or remembering our gifts. And yes, you're right in that way that many have chosen to close those gifts up and even put on a soul level what I'm seeing even energetically in the body, these, you can call it implants, these kind of showstoppers from activating the gifts or having that full power. Because what happened, in dark ages, the witches were burned at the stakes, the shamans were persecuted. There was a lot of that where if you were powerful or were trying to help people, sometimes you were misunderstood for trying to do goodness. And in the process of that, bad things would happen. So there was a lot of that preservation and shutting down. And yes, you're right too about, living in a big city or living in a society that is not nurturing the type of openness. Because if you're an empath and you don't know how to control the boundaries of your energy, and you walk into the store, and you feel everything, it's a lot. You get overwhelmed with those energies, and you feel in the good energies, the bad energies, and everything in between. So it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of control and training to also know how to release these energies, what's yours, what's not, how to work with these energies. And some of us who, you know, kind of naturally, like I think for me, it was a natural progression because my soul started remembering that I knew how to do this, but it wasn't immediate. It was also like baby steps of stepping into it, stepping into my power, reclaiming my power, because that's not something you just jump right into. There's always a lot of hesitation. And it's almost like you have to give yourself a permission slip to be that child again, to be the magician, to be the witch, to be all of the above, right? For me in my journey, actually, what helped me the most was plant medicine work. So I spent a lot of time in the jungles of Peru and Colombia and here in New York, taking different psychedelic medicines like ayahuasca or mushroom medicine. And the medicines were the ones who really helped me to step outside of this comfort zone of what I know and travel the consciousness, right? Travel the realms, go into places that maybe my ego mind wasn't quite yet ready, or allow me to shed, like they call it ayahuasca, the medicine of the ego death. Like she kind of forces you in many ways, not in always gentle way, to really release and step into that purity. Because the way I usually see, and now that I work with people, and I don't believe we need plant medicine always, because now I see there's other ways to get there, but it's almost like an onion. Like onion hold says all these layers, and every time you unpeel a layer, the tears, there's all this stuff that we have to go through. But at the core of the onion, I believe we're all beautiful. We are perfect, angelic beings that just remembering who we are. But all that stuff, all these layers have to unpeel for us to connect to that again. And so, yes, there's preservation. Yes, there's also this, program that we all running of suffering, that we have to suffer. And that's also primordial. Like if you think of the cave days, like we had to survive. We did. So with our reptilian brain is very much mammal brain on. It's like if you sit in the cave and there is a tree with some berries on it, and you come out every day and you collect these berries, and there's a lion running around, you run back to the cave. So danger is real, but fear is an illusion, because sometimes you think danger equals to fear, but that's not quite true. Everything actually is on the other side of fear. And so you equate sameness equals to safety. Like, this is the past, so this is all I know, and therefore I am safe. And then, the berries dry out and you have to go and explore another tree, and you freak out because you're like, oh my God, now I have to go into unknown, and the lion is running around there. So those primordial reptilian ways, they're very much true. But we have developed, we evolved as Homo sapiens. We also have prefrontal cortex. So now it's surpassing the lower brain, and the energy can actually go here. Because when I do activations on people, they pass through the brain, the somatic intelligence of the body activates, they go into the waves, and all the energy starts lighting up here. And they've done so many studies now with MRI, with psychedelic, where like if you take a mushroom medicine, it starts connecting the synapses of the brain, firing and rewiring the whole brain circuitry, we only using what? Tiny percentage of what is available, less than 10%, right? But as it starts activating, it's all in prefrontal cortex. This is where we have those connections that to the whole galaxy, to the universe. Like, we have a small gland, a pineal gland, what we call a third eye. And that gland is like that radio station I was talking about earlier. That is a transmitter and receiver of information. For many people, it also got calcified. So it calcified from not using it in lifetimes. It got calcified from the environmental factors, from the food. I mean, everything is pretty much out there to poison us. So we have to, like I said, unpeel all these layers to connect again. And yes, step into the courage, into the unknown. And even though there's a line running around, the line sometimes is real, but sometimes it's not. And it just seems like it's real. And I think where we as humanity, when I see us in this moment and what's happening in the next 5 years, by 2030, I see huge changes. We'll be forced into recreating ourselves in a new way that we never fathomed before. It's going to be a really interesting time. We can go more into it, but I've been looking, for instance, at AI. And that's, I think, also going to push us into really questioning who we are versus the machines.
For sure. I think we all can agree on that one, if we want or not. And last sentence to close this up, because we have so much more interesting things with you to talk about. But I think it's also really a capitalistic question, right? Because so many of the jobs we do that are bringing money, we can't do most likely if we're really open, or if we have that empathy and all of these things. That's basically not the good way to make a lot of money. For many people, they need to close up, they need to grind through so they can do the things that bring the cash, and it's another level. So I guess this is an interesting one where always, so just very short questions if you can, because I have so much more to ask you.
Sure.
Do you think that it's doable to open up, to have the sensitivity and function in this society productively? Or you think there's a trade-off, that there are some things or some jobs that you could not do being open and being reconnected? Or you think it's just a state of mind? And just a short one if you can.
Yeah, I think it is a state of mind. I think it's harder just because as you awaken, your heart is awakening. And so your relationships are not transactional anymore. They are about, relating to each other. So it's not about what I get from you, what versus what you give from me, which is the rest of the world right now like this. It's all about push and pull. You're all about co-creating together, about collaborating. And so in that type of way, if you are in an environment that's still very transactional, it's hard. It's hard to be in that environment because it's no longer aligning with your way of being. And I think the businesses are changing. I think there is in the US, there's a cancel culture. I think now people don't look at it as easy as they used to. Like, like if you had a narcissistic manager, like they will be most likely pushed out of the work environment. That is not, that type of toxic behavior, toxic masculinity is not as acceptable as it was even maybe a few years ago. So there is a change. I do see that in a corporate world, but it does, it does take training. And I think you still can be you no matter where you are. And whether it's corporate environment, non-corporate environment, I think at the end of the day, as you become centered and anchored into your truth and speaking your truth, and that's, I'm kind of in all the worlds I was mentioning to you. I'm still kind of a little bit in corporate and very much in spiritual, and I don't change. I am me. And the authenticity, I think, is what really matters.
That's the joke answer. And I thought the masculinity is back in fashion in the United States right now. I got that wrong here in Europe. But all right, okay. I take your word for it.
Maybe the president, but not everywhere else. Yes.
All right, okay. I don't know on which side I am, because I'm an old man, so I should be careful here. We're getting extinct. All right, okay.
I think it's
There's
not
so
about
much
being
more.
extinct. It's about really balancing those energies within you. I think every human, whether they're female or male, they have both of these energies, the masculine and the feminine. And it's really finding that balance within and operating from the heart. I think that's really at the end of the day what matters.
All right, let's not put myself on the couch. We don't want to make the audience cry. So something you said before that really immediately led my, because I'm of course interested. You said about Kundalini energy. This is one of the things before we didn't
Yes.
really talk about quantum the rest of
Yes.
the podcast, but just maybe a little bit to understand. And you said opening up, so I could hear some Kundalini story here as well happening. Maybe tell a little bit to the people who are maybe not so much into Eastern things. And
Yeah.
there are different ways to open the channels. I mean, we agree there are different schools. If it's like the Chinese one, going from up down, from down up, back up down, or of course Kundalini, which spreads from inside out, and of course something Tibetan way that just comes from the crown. So there are different techniques, and I guess everybody finds the channel, the path, the way that works for one individually. So can you a little bit tell why you're working with Kundalini, why you think this is a good path for some
Yeah.
people? Just one sentence or
Yeah.
two,
I
and
mean,
then let's go to quantum.
true, true. The somatic intelligence of the body really matters. And we have to understand that we are this energy field. And I literally can see it's like a toroidal field, right? It goes up and down or all around, circulating through our body. What is Kundalini, or they call it Shakti in Hindu? It's this feminine energy. And they sometimes show this energy as the serpents that meet together in the third eye and then open the crown. And so this energy is available. It's life force energy. It's chi, it's ki, however you want to call it. It's all the same. In the martial arts, they practice it. In Reiki, they practice it. It's whatever label so we give it. So there is many, as you said, techniques. Some people do Kundalini yoga, so they do a lot of breath work or they push the energy. So what I do is a feminine way. The feminine way is more, like you said, not from up down. It's really non-dualistic transmission. So I am a divine conduit that is positively pushing the energy of positivity into people's field. And by default, the Kundalini, the serpent, is negative energy. So if you think about, how like lightning is produced? Are you familiar with lightning? So there is plus and minus. So there's like minus on the ground and the plus in the clouds. And then the energy kind of, it's all about, the charges. And then where they converge, all of a sudden lightning gets created, similar to Kundalini. So for me, I see myself as a divine conduit, right? I'm just channeler, transmitter of this energy. And because quantumly we all entangled, we all kind of within the same field of information. What happens when I do workshops, and I've already been doing online workshops, the same experience happens for people, which is awesome because initially I thought you have to be always in person, but now I'm seeing you don't have to be in person. And then now this quantum physics proves that if there's a particle in one room and with intention, they connect to other particles, no matter where they are in the world, there's an entanglement. They can operate in the same way. So people feel the effect of this transmission of this energy, and something happens for them where they start feeling tingling in their fingers, in their toes. They feel heat often, and heat is actually that Kundalini energy. Sometimes they feel cold. Cold is the cosmic energy. So there's that plus and minus, right? Meet together again. Something happening for them, or there's a physical sensation, there's emotional sensation. The energy starts moving, and I believe we all have this potential. Like I said, it's like dormant energy that needs to activate. And why it needs to activate? Because it's part of this remembering process. We have to remember this is technology. And this technology has been dormant for centuries. And so as we activate this technology at the toroidal field, as we expand the field, we learn how to expand and contract. With that comes all of that. Like all of a sudden, energy comes from your fingers and you can start healing others, or you can see auras or downloads. As you start releasing the resistance again, as I was mentioning, energy times capacity divided by resistance, which means the more you surrender, the more you hit that parasympathetic system, there's more energy now in the field, and there's more capacity, there's more geometry that builds in your field to hold all of that. At the end of the day, we all light. We are quantum. What is quantum, right? We are all of this field of information. And now there's so much light particles coming from the sun. We're getting bombarded right now with the cosmic radiation, the solar maximum that's happening. So we constantly getting upgraded. And this is our beautiful opportunity to, align ourselves to this energy and see what comes, see what gifts open up for you. Because like I said, everyone is individual, but everyone has this. Yeah.
Nice that you said the catchphrase, right? From when people more than 20 years in the business, sooner or later, they constantly say surrender, 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 right? that, it takes a long time to get there.
Oh my God. And surrender doesn't stop. Like just when you thought, like this is where I am, to be honest. Just when I thought I surrendered to the point, there's no more surrender. It's like it's coming to this 0 point. So we're not like those people talking about ascension, like we're going somewhere. But there's no ascension. We are the ones we've been waiting for. It's actually inscension. Inscension is this 0 point of the heart. We actually merge and integrate in all of these lessons, all of this information back into ourselves. And this is the surrender. The surrender is actually completely deprogramming ourselves. Like imagine releasing all the programs, what you've been taught, your ancestral stuff, everything, and coming to complete 0 point nullification. And then that's the true surrender where you're like, oh, wow, who am I now? And then from that point on, you're like, what do I want to be? Now I get an opportunity to create myself. So I think we're in this creation process. Who do I want to be myself personally? But also, who do we want to be as humanity, as a collective? And so I think right now it's very personal and collective process we're all going. Everyone I know is in some sort of transition right now, and everyone is hitting that who am I moment. What's my soul purpose, right? Who am I really? And beyond all the illusions I've been building for myself. And I think that's a beautiful place. That's where we really evolve. This is where really the quantum leap takes us to the next level of consciousness when we start questioning. And that's where it's going to be interesting where we go from here.
I'm not sure if I'm 100% with you on this one, because if you look out there, maybe, a lot of people, maybe the people that you're around it with, you are lucky. The people who consult you, talk with, they might be ready. But if you look at the overall society, something like, community work, surrendering, putting your ego down, being, these kind of qualities, they're not big, around right now. We can see that there is narcissistic trends, consumerism, hyper-consumerism, and all of these things. So it's quite fascinating because I get a lot of bad emails because so many times in my podcast where people are very smart and read 1,000 books and all of it, and they know every detail. And I always ask, are you a better husband? Are you a better neighbor? Are you a better father? How does it all manifest in the real world? And then people look at me and get real angry, like I know a million things, I'm basically, study Buddha.
But Philip, I think what you hit it on, and I think it's a very important distinction. Thank you for bringing that up. It's about IQ versus EQ, right? It's intellect versus wisdom. And I think in this today's world, and back to that transactional versus relationship based, it's not about IQ. IQ is important, but if you can't relate to the other, you learn all these things, but if you're not experiencing them yourself, if you're not living that life, if you're not embodying that, it's all just information. And what makes you different from AI then? Because today you can just put in a question into ChatGPT and future robots that now they're going to replace all the teachers with, they know everything because they like filled with all information of the encyclopedia. So their IQ is much higher now than ours. But what they don't have, and this is what makes you human, they don't have the EQ. They don't have the curiosity. They don't have the emotional intelligence. They don't know how to relate to you through the heart. They can only mimic you, and they do a good job in that. But there's no true relationship of the human. And so I think where we are, and that's what I was mentioning about AI, I do see, I don't get me wrong, I think AI is a dangerous thing in many ways and good thing in the other. There's many different takes on it. Because from one perspective, AI tends to assimilate and absorb, and we have enough evidence of a lot of movies of where it can go. But it's also is a good tool. It's like training wheels. It allows us to also get creative if this is what we choose to. But at the end of the day, we have to be very strong in sovereignty and understanding what it means to be a human. Because there's a huge, because AI is really going to take over a lot of our jobs right now. And you don't need to have high IQ anymore. I just talked to a friend and he told me there was a meeting of some researchers in London and they showed this new AI. And what took pharmaceutical researchers 10 years to process, AI can do in 2 hours now. So all their jobs in a couple of years are going to eliminate. So, where does their high IQ take them? Nowhere, really, because AI can already process it much faster. And so, at the end of the day, it's about how do we communicate to each other? How do we relate to each other? How do we love each other? How we connect? What makes us different from a robot? And that's, I think, the question everyone is going to be asking because you can outsource it now, really, all your IQ to someone, to a robotic machine.
With you on many things, and I did a whole IE series last year where we had a lot of therapists and researchers, all kind of people on the show. And there's a lot of concern because, as you said, they're smart as hell, but they don't feel love, they don't feel pain, sorrow, and it's not logic. And you cannot find a mathematical formula for love because we do crazy, stupid things, and it cannot be calculated. So it's an interesting conversation. It's going to go on and
Yeah.
on, but I didn't want to bring it there. I was just generally just wanted to point out that there's really, when you said surrender, this is just something that needs to be practically innerly. It's an inner work and it's an outside work. And that's also part of the healing. And that basically hopefully brings me now to
Yeah.
quantum healing, which you're doing, brings us to
Yeah.
the last chapter of this conversation to ask the question I like to always ask when you do healing, when you propose healing. Do you have this inside outside motion? Do you look at this holistically, or are you focused on the groundwork and then people have to implement it themselves? Or how are you dealing it with your personal approach with
Yeah.
this?
So many ways to heal, right? And to be honest, I don't like the word healing either. When the reason I don't like the word healing because it assumes something is broken. And I come from the place of nothing is wrong with you. Because when you in this perpetual cycle of thinking you're broken, you're going from a healer to a healer to a healer to fix you. And this is the part of when you don't take responsibility and you outsource the healing to someone else to fix you up. But if you start from a place, actually nothing is wrong with me. All is all that is happening to me is I'm out of alignment. And as my role is, you know, not a healer. I see myself more as a facilitator, as calibrator. I'm just bringing you back to alignment. I'm just reminding you and your body what it feels like to be in alignment. So for me, when I start working with someone, I just see them holistically, their whole multidimensional self. And I'm paying attention to misalignments. I'm paying attention to where the distortions are, where the densities are in their chakras, which chakras are blocked, where they're holding those emotions, whether it's fear or doubt, or their heart is closed, they have a heart wall, or their throat is closed because they can't speak their truth, or the upper chakras are closed because of some other reason. So for me, I use light language or source language because these are quantum codes that allow me to shift the energy when I channel and push energy out of the way and transmute. So as kind of shaman and someone, I don't hold that frequency. I transmute it into light. So I burp it out, I accumulate it, and then I release it and transmute it to light. Energy and energy. You can't destroy energy. All you can do is just change its state of consciousness. And I don't judge it. There's no judgment at all. It just is. So my whole goal is to unpeel those layers and help people to have more energy, more Kundalini in their field, more connection, more lightness of being. So they're not heavy carrying that in their field. Because if they carry those rocks, right, those ancestral burdens on their shoulders, or whatever there is, They just really kind of continue to be in that suffering zone. And so if their field is more open, they're no longer as blocked, now they start to really feel, right? Now they start to become the quantum human that I want them to be. And then the rest just come in. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell, kind of what my goal of the healing is recalibration and alignment back to their original soul blueprint. Because at its purest core, we are angelic beings. We are, from the source, from the light. And then we just temporarily in this lifetime, we just hosted in this particular vessel. And this vessel collected some experiences. And then, these experiences could be heavy. And sometimes they're so heavy that you have hard time processing these experiences. It's, like how you open your computer sometimes, like I'm looking at my browser right now, I have so many tabs open. And my computer is having hard time processing it because it's so many tabs and I need to close the tabs. Same with us. Like if we have too many tabs open, what happens? It's like it's leaking energy. It's having a hard time processing. Sometimes you have to reboot the computer altogether, right? So it works better. Same with us. Sometimes we need a complete reset and reboot. And that's where I see sometimes people they hit a wall. And whether they have a car accident or some sort of disease happens for them, they divorce, something really drastic and dramatic, where their soul made some contracts where they're like, okay, if I don't see this and I run myself down to this point in life, something has to push me, something has to trigger for me to really see beyond, the veil, so to speak, for me to reset and reboot all completely if I haven't closed my tabs. And that's where I usually come in. I'm just there so they don't have to reboot all completely and then just doing it more gently. Or I'm just orienting. That's my other role. I see myself as orient. I'm orienting you back in to the source, to the light for you to remember because you kind of got lost along the way and separated yourself so far out. I hope that explained.
It definitely explains so much, but I guess, very easy to listen, but I guess it's very difficult to navigate because when you're jumping between all those levels, it also, maybe let's spend the last couple of minutes, if it's okay. I would very much be interested in you because I know what you do, how you help others, work with others, guide others, but can we just stay a couple of minutes because with all of your gifts and all of your first of all, I ask this question many people who have a similar background like you, and I always get the same answer, which is kind of making me angry. But I'll try it again. I don't know, you guys, you talk to each other, I think. But being that open, getting all of this information and being connected with the source to some extent. If you go in a regular supermarket and you just walk through the aisles, what do you see? People, on the phone, running and buzzing, doing their thing. How sometimes do you feel like sorry that people don't look up and see the other humans around them, see their family the way they should? Or you think it's all part of the process? How do you see the regular people?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I go to the supermarket just be me, right? So I shine my light and I smile and I meet people where they are. And if I can brighten the day of anyone in the supermarket who feels maybe not so great that day, that's amazing. I don't really judge. For me, I see them where they are in their level of consciousness. And so I have a lot of compassion, right? It's not something that, I feel we need to judge. It's just where they are. And if you can just be you, it's kind of like stepping into a dark room and holding a candle, right? And that one candle is enough to illuminate the whole room. So for me, that's how I see myself. I'm the beacon of light. I'm that candle. And I don't need to worry, but somehow it, illuminates places it needs to illuminate. I mean, I used to take a train to New York City and there was a lot of homeless people on the train. And there's a lot of entities and all kinds of energies. And, I've just been me. Sometimes I would actively clear it because it would be bothering me, and sometimes not. And I just expand my field through the whole train. And then something happens, there's this energy that shifts. So I think it's just taking responsibility for the spaces we add and who we are. And I think those of us who've been on this journey for a long time, I think it's just easier for us because we're more practiced and we know how to expand and we know where to contract, and it's not as overwhelming. And that's what I teach others. Everyone can do that, and we can shift the frequency of the room. We can shift the frequency of how the people feel, even if they're not consciously aware of it. So it's almost like entrainment. We entrain in the ones that are maybe a little bit on their phone and not paying attention. And there's going to be always those who are not paying attention. Trust me, when I'm on the train to New York City, most of the people are on the phone, doom scrolling, kids included. And yes, everyone is disconnected, and that's the reality. And there's no, it's a free will aspect here. We can hold the candle, we can recruit, follow my candle, get on my train. But at the end of the day, they have to choose. They need to want that. Part of them maybe will be inspired. Part of them needs to want that. You can't force on anyone to follow you, and that's really not the goal anyway. And we're not here to save everyone.
You can or you shouldn't. That's an interesting one.
You shouldn't, and it's not our role, really. Not everyone is going to be awake
But
in the
too
same
many people
level.
do, right? Too many people turn it on the candle so it's magnetic and
It's
people follow, but
well,
you shouldn't.
we turn it on the candle. Some will, some won't, right? The idea is not to be attached to the outcome of who is going to follow you or who is going to be inspired, or how many people you're going to affect. If you're trying to do that, that's an ego talk. But that someone who is on the path usually doesn't have an ego. And for us, it's about illuminating the hearts, right? We are here to activate people's hearts. And so it's not how many people, it's just that one person you would smile to in the store and you made their day brighter. That is enough, really. Because that, I call it love ripple. That ripple of love will ripple somehow, because that person is going to go home. She's going to smile to her kids, to her husband, and everyone is going to start feeling better. This little shift, if you can do it to one person. So it's really not about how many people you can influence. It would be nice, but that shouldn't be the goal. And so I think it's really day at a time, person at a time. And that's how I usually see it. And that is enough, because otherwise, that becomes like its own, ego driven mission. And that's really not what this is about. I think we are all here collectively, your podcast, my podcast, soul communication. We're all contributing to this bigger ripple that we're all creating together. And somehow, in its beautiful quantum entanglement, it creates this web. And we are holding this energy for others, right? And then they see it, and it's their choice. They can be into it, following it, getting deeper, more inspired, more curious, follow your curiosity into rabbit hole. Or they might be like, I see it, I don't want it. I'm here, I'm good. And that's okay too. And there's a lot of family members. I often hear that people on the spiritual path, they're like, I wish my family member understood this. We can't really talk, and that's okay too. You can just only inspire them so much. Eventually it does affect them. You still, it rubs off all the time. Like my family, I know initially they were like, "What's happening?" But now they slowly, on their own terms, started exploring, and everyone finds their way. So yeah,
I cannot wish for a better ending, because this is a message to everyone. If you just light one person up, they go home and maybe smile to their child and to their husband. So this kind of ripple effect, and I think this is such a beautiful ending for a message for everyone to think about it. If one push a day to smile to someone, and he will give the smile to someone else, and if it would all of us try to do it, most likely we already would change the frequency of the world, if we would just
absolutely.
consciously every day just pass one smile on. it would come right around. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Thank you
sharing
for me.
this last message. And we'll all be thinking about this for the rest of the day and the evening. Have we today at least passed one smile? And looking on my business calculation and beginning of the year bookkeeping, I think I have not given the single smile today, to be very
No,
honest.
give smile to other, and I'll add to that as a homework. Give smile to yourself. Give yourself a little hug too at the end of the day, because you're doing so much, Philip, right? So give a hug to yourself before you go to bed. By staying up so late and recording this, you also do an amazing work for the world. So take the credit. A little pat on the back. I'm giving it to you.
Uh, it's very kind. I'm a married man. I don't get that kind of a stuff. Thank you so much for coming here to the show and looking forward to having you back someday. Thank you. And all
Thank you,
information, books, and
everyone.
everything will be down there on YouTube. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it so much as I did. And please leave a comment if you managed to give some smile or received some unexpected smile. Just maybe put it a comment on YouTube. Why not? Come on, let's a little bit share the good news. Thank you so very much.